Wonderful. We are live. Good evening, all. Welcome to our live streaming tonight. We do apologise for the delay in getting on. Of course, we've had some technical issues in the last 10 minutes. But yeah, whoever's out there, hopefully you'll pop back on. But whether you have tuned in live now or you will be viewing this later on, we welcome you. For those of you who may not actually know who I am, aside from being the leader of the Conservative Party here in New Zealand, I'm a school teacher, I'm a law student, and I am director of a charitable trust. But most of all, most important, the role that I value the most is the fact that I'm a parent. And like many of you out there who will be watching this, there will be parents, no doubt. And as parents, we have an expectation about what our school system is focused on delivering to our children. Now, some of you may not be parents, and I just want to assure you that what we're going to be, what we're talking about tonight is actually for everybody. You may be an employer who's going to actually hire a school leaver, and we know how important it will be for you as well with hiring students that actually are ready to actually be in the workforce, students that have some skills, but not only the skills, it's also about the fact that they're ready to learn, they're ready to take some responsibility and contribute, not activists that are trained to challenge your authority before they've even learned to take direction. And also, if you're a taxpayer out there, you are actually paying for the delivery of the education that our New Zealand young people are getting. So this interview tonight is actually important for all of us. Just a little bit of backstory before I bring in our guest. We have a special guest tonight, and I'll just take a moment to fill in a wee bit of backstory if it's the first time you've tuned in. So for several years, we, the Conservative Party, previously named New Conservative, we have campaigned to ensure that New Zealand's education system returns to its intended purpose, which is teaching foundational knowledge, not ideology, of course. We also, where are we? I'm just keeping an eye on where I'm up to, because I do have a bit of a structure, and we've already had lots of technology issues, so I do hope that people can see. Anyway, I've also talked and interviewed a lot of mums and dads, as well as counsellors and parents who have young people that have identified as transgender. I've also talked to a lot of other students, and tonight you are going to hear from a high school student who is currently in school in the thick of it. Now, I just want to assure you that we won't be naming the name of the school where he's at or the teachers, but I would like to urge any students or families that watch this later to actually get in contact with me if you are experiencing some of these issues, or if you have concerns around some of these issues and want to talk to us as well about this. So without further ado, I'm just going to bring in who's Joe. Add to the stage. Joe, welcome, Joe. There he goes.
Good evening, Helen.
Okay. Can you hear me, Joe?
Yes, I can hear you, Helen.
Marvellous, and we can hear you too. Thank you. It's great to have you here with us today. But look, for the audience, for the purpose of the audience, what I'm going to do shortly is I'm going to ask Joe some questions. But before we do that, what I'd like to know first is, Joe, if you just give us maybe 1 or 2 minutes to tell us a little bit about yourself. You don't have to give us your whole life story, but I mean more around things like what you do for fun, what interests you have, just a wee bit about yourself now, in the here and now, what you enjoy at school. Are you involved in any clubs, anything like that? Just 1 or 2 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. Well, good evening, Helen, and all of you that are tuning in. I am Jo Soap for the purpose of this interview, and yes, some hobbies about me are I love history, geography, and politics, as well as a few other things. I like to draw occasionally. I play golf, which is very fun, and at school, I'm a leader of a house. I'm one of the various leaders of a specific house, which is quite a fun and important job. And I'm 13 years old, as for the purpose, and yeah, this is pretty much it.
Pretty much it. Sounds great. Interesting. I think for the audience, I'll just repeat that. So Jo is 13 years old. I have interviewed a couple of other students a little bit older than you, Jo. When you did tell me you were 13, I was surprised. I thought you were actually 15. But yeah, so tonight, the purpose of tonight is to get a student voice around some of the issues that we've already discussed on our platform, Jo. We've talked, like I said, we've talked to some parents who've had some huge concerns around some of the education content. But I'll just go through a few questions with you, and as well as you answering them, the audience might want to put some comments or questions in directed at you as well. And so we'll put them up and see how we go. All right. Is that fine with you? I think you might have frozen, but I'm sure you'll come back to us. Okay. Hopefully he'll come back. Okay. First question. Are you there, Jo? Good. Okay. First question.
I'm here.
I'm
finally
can you
back.
tell us what? Good. As I said to the audience, we have had quite a lot of technology issues just before before this interview. So, as well as being a little bit late, we may have a wee bit of trouble. But if you can bear with us, this is a very important interview. So, number one, can you tell us what kinds of things you've been taught in class that you or your family felt uncomfortable with?
Of course. So during a regular school week, my day is divided up into periods, usually about 6 or 7 per day. And in one of those periods, there's this topic called Wānanga. And in that period, this was during Pride Week, we had to do a Kahoot, which is like a quiz about Pride Week, which was basically, is this the Pride flag? And you got shown and you say, no, it's not. No, this is the cisgender flag or something like that. And what is dead naming? And how can you be an ally? All that sort of stuff. And another topic for health, we were learning about biology. And then we took a focus on to study 4 athletes, 2 of which were one man and one female, and they both had advantages in a certain sport, but the other 2 were both transgenders. One was a born female that transitioned to a male, and the other one was a New Zealand-born man who competed in weightlifting and transitioned to a woman, and I believe beat all the women in New Zealand and competed in the Olympics, possibly. I'm not too sure on that. But those are just a few topics that were discussed in my home.
Okay. And can we just go back a little bit? So what is dead naming? Like, did you know anything about dead naming before this particular lesson?
Yeah, I did know a little bit about dead naming. I wasn't really too sure. But dead naming is basically like if I'm born Jo Soap and I suddenly decide I want to transition to become a woman, then I go through the surgery and then I get this new name and I become Jolene Soap. Then my old name, Jo Soap, is dead. That's my dead name. I no longer go by that name. I am now Jolene. So that is basically dead naming.
And what was the purpose of teaching you this?
Well, they said it was because it was Pride Week during the time, and we were fully into it, and they just did it because it was Pride Week. Our school was into it. We even had the Pride flag up instead of the regular New Zealand flag. So I was pretty shocked, but yeah, it was just because it was Pride Week.
Okay, and you mentioned that they talked about the rainbow flag. Did they unpick that a little bit? What parts of the flag are, like what colours represent parts of the rainbow, or what? Do you remember what exactly they said the rainbow flag is?
Well, they didn't unpick, as you say, they didn't unpick which parts of the flag meant what. They were really just putting down the seeds. Basically, they were just saying, is this the pride flag? And we got shown the rainbow flag, which is red on the top and all the colors down. They didn't really unpick to describe which part of this meant. It's just, is this the pride or rainbow or LGBTQ, whatever flag?
And you all knew that it was the rainbow flag. Was anybody
Yes.
questioned? Did anyone question it any further?
We didn't really question it, to be honest. Everybody was just kind of like in the mood of trying to win and trying to get as many answers right. I didn't really matter what score I got. I just clicked a random button and submitted it.
Okay, so it was presented to you in a fun way, so that, because as a teacher I know Kahoot and I played it often with my students, and they would love to do that rather than learn anything else, because it's fun, it's a game. Yeah, and so this is presented as a real fun thing, so that you're going to take it in as something cool and exciting and fun. Yeah. Okay. Can you just tell me what age were you first, if you remember? Do you remember roughly, as a guess, what age you were first introduced to topics like rainbow flag, pronouns, or gender identity?
If I was to look back, I would say the first time I really was introduced to all of that stuff, I was around about 10, going on the age of 11, 10, 11-ish, I would say.
Do you remember much about that?
I remember that I forget which school name it was, but I remember I was in my school, I was around about a year 6, 11 years old, give or take. And we got brought up, it was basically, this is the pride flag and all of this stuff and genders. I can't remember any specific areas. All I remember is just vaguely that's when I really started to understand what they were teaching us. Because, of course, I understood previously that there's these gay people and there's also transgenders. But then the flags and the pronouns and everything really started to be taught to me at about the age of 11.
Okay. Have you had other lessons that you remember around the different terms of these transgender identities? So they use different names, not just transgender. There's specific names. Have you come across that in any of the lessons?
At my current school, a little bit. Previously, at another school, my 2 schools before the one I'm currently in now, we did get taught a bit about that stuff. Yes.
But you don't remember exactly some of the names. I mean, it's fine. Yeah. It's fine. I mean, it's probably good. It's good that you don't. Okay. Have you ever felt at any time like you weren't allowed to disagree with what was being taught?
I always felt that I could raise questions and challenge it, like in that health topic I was telling you about. I did question, I said, I don't believe a man can become a woman and vice versa. And then there was a bit of a dialogue between my teacher and I. It wasn't really like a talking to disciplinary, but it was she said, well, there's a bit of confusion around it. And I said, well, no, there isn't. A man's a man, a woman's a woman. You can't really interchange.
Good one.
But I never felt like Sorry, you glitched out for a second there.
Sorry, I shouldn't have cut in. I just saying it's common sense. Well done.
Yeah. So to answer your question in brief summary, I never felt like I couldn't speak up. I just always felt like it wasn't the right time to speak up.
Okay. You mentioned to me that these particular lessons that you have, or when you have these discussions in your class, there's about twice a week, 2 different periods a week, where you go through some of this content around whether it's LGBT or maybe some other ideological content. Was that right? Twice a week?
Yes, that is correct. On a Monday, once on a Monday and once on a Tuesday. For the specific Pride Week, we did do a quiz and we learned a little bit about something else about pronouns and just like and different flags and stuff.
Okay, let's go back to let's touch on the pronouns. When I teach pronouns, and when I've always taught pronouns previously, and all the pronouns that majority of us know about are potentially different than maybe what you're being taught around pronouns. Can you go into that a little bit? Like, okay, actually, we'll just stop for a minute. We can say, for me, you are a he. You're a he, I'm a she.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're one person, so you wouldn't be identified as they or them, which probably makes sense to you, but you may have heard something else. Do you let me know?
Yeah. So from the way I've always been raised is that there's man and woman, there's he, she, him, her, and that was all there was to it. And now what I see is happening in my classroom is like this. We haven't touched on it too much, but it's more becoming like, well, pronouns are basically as fluid as what you can become. You can become a woman, you can choose these pronouns, all this other stuff. Basically, you choose what you want to be and you choose the pronouns you have, which is so confusing.
Okay, can we just stop for a minute? You told me you choose. Are your teachers telling you that you can choose what pronoun to use and that you could be a ZZM or whatever? Is that what they're saying to you?
Well, what they don't use the specific words you choose, but it is basically what they're saying is people can be a ZZM
Okay.
or a...
Did you hear that, Joe?
Sorry, Helen, you glitched out there.
I know you. Okay. The question I asked you mentioned that you can choose. Are you telling us that your teachers tell you that you can choose what pronoun to use? Sounds not too.
I said as you choose.
Obviously,
Yes, they say that they don't say that we like the word we. They say that people can choose the pronouns that they want.
Okay, so I'm sure the audience that are watching now and later would like to have some serious conversations with those teachers or with your school. It'd be interesting to know how many schools are doing this. Is that like, are you getting that from one teacher or is that coming from a variety of teachers? Is that message coming across from a few people?
It was coming from one specific teacher during that Wānanga class that I had, because that's the class that you learn about this stuff. But that was running particularly for Pride Week. So it was one specific teacher. The rest of the teachers, like maths, just continued on with their work.
So you don't really get a lot of the other teachers doing it. It's just the Pride people that are pushing it more so. Do you feel like they're pushing it on you instead of, for example, instead of teaching students how to be respectful of all people, no matter who they are, do you feel like they're actually pushing a bit of an agenda, especially obviously during Pride Week?
Well, for that specific Pride Week. So sorry, let me just clarify. So just to make sure that I do understand your question. Your question is, are they pushing it that how to be respectful towards these specific people and actually pushing an agenda rather than teaching us how to just be respectful in general?
Well, are they kind of pushing you to accept a certain way of thinking instead of it being around lessons around understanding others?
Well, I would say for those lessons, yes, that it was basically, well, it was kind of like a lesson which was saying, it was almost like it was normal, shall I say. It was like the kids almost took, the lesson was being taught in a way that the kids were all agreed, and it was basically like you were being taught to how to care about people, but it was structured around this whole pronouns and transgender thing. So I found it was like almost quite useless, shall I say, because they could just teach us how to be respectful in general, like how to care about people, which they did do sort of in some other lessons. But I would say yes to your question that it was pushing an agenda.
One of the questions I wanted to ask, is there any examples where you feel like maybe there was more activism going on and not education?
I would say they have the feeling that it's not pertinent to them, but it's just general acceptance. I have a few kids in my class that just wade through the murky waters that were being taught and just get on with it. But in the general class, it's more like, okay, yeah, this is right.
Right. So just as we carry on, I want to do one thing. You mentioned